Okay, so let's get started. The way it works, for those of you who are absolutely new here, we do a 20-minute, 20 minute training, and then we go for about 7 minutes into the breakout rooms, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about any offers that we've got at the end. So today we're talking about how to increase emotional intelligence for business and coaching. We know from a lot of the research that's coming out now that NLP, emotional intelligence, is one of the top qualities that's required for leaders. Now, where this fits with neuro-linguistic programming is NLP can give you the tools to develop your emotional intelligence. But we'll talk about that in a little bit of detail later on. Those of you who've signed on to the NLP Mastery for Business and Coaching, you'll be learning a lot of the techniques that we use to develop emotional intelligence. But we know that this is something that leaders are looking for. People that are coaching, they're looking to become coaches, are becoming more emotionally intelligent. And it's just huge. It's all about interpersonal skills. Emotional intelligence can be best described as the ability to monitor your own and others' feelings and emotions and use this information to guide your thoughts and actions. Being emotionally intelligent doesn't mean you walk about with wings on going, whoa, life is wonderful. No, it's being aware. How am I coming across to others? It's being able to what we call read the room. It's being able to step into the world of other people. It's being able to develop your empathy, to develop the ability to understand what's going on with other people. And it's also the ability to be able to control emotion, but talk about it. A good leader who's emotionally intelligent can get really pissed off, really angry, really frustrated with someone, but they don't talk to them in that state. They wait until that state has subsided, that they let that state come down, and then they can say to someone in a very resourceful state, you may have noticed in that meeting that I started to get a little bit flushed. I was a bit short. I was furious with what happened there. But you don't stay in the state of, and that's not being emotionally intelligent. So it's being able to talk about your emotions and having the vocabulary to be able to mention what different emotions are. That's something I don't actually mention in this particular presentation, but the larger emotional vocabulary you can have, and this is brilliant for children, by the way. Those of you with children, especially young children, the more words they can get to describe their emotion, the more they'll be able to control their emotions. It's quite incredible what happens. We talk about it a little bit when we talk about name it and tame it at the end. Leaders with high emotional intelligence. Now, sometimes you'll hear this referred to as EI. Sometimes you'll hear it referred to as EQ, emotional quotient. But they're both the same thing, but it's emotional intelligence that it's the ability really to connect with people well. Leaders with high EI know themselves. They can effectively self-regulate and self-motivate through a difficult and uncertain time. Emotional intelligence helps create psychological safety. Connecting with staff through empathy can foster increased engagement. This in turn improves focus and productivity. Who knows about mirror neurons? Put your hand up if you know about mirror neurons. Mirror neurons are the way our brains are lighting up when we're synchronizing with people. If you don't know about it, go and look it up, go and research it on the internet. So when you're in rapport with someone, especially a leader, when you're connected neurologically with your leader, which means you're in a state of trust, you're in a state of mirroring, you're actually almost mirroring what they are doing, you'll do anything for that person. You will go that extra mile. And it's that loyalty, it's that camaraderie, it's that collaboration that really makes companies highly productive. This is how you get top performing teams, high performance teams. People don't consistently high perform under pressure and under fear. They consistently high perform when they're in a state of real collaboration with the people they're working with, and they're allowed to do their best. So this is one of the things that emotional intelligence helps create. So we start, there's 5 competencies of emotional intelligence. We start with self-awareness. The ability for you to understand your strengths and weaknesses, your internal motivations, drives and preferences, and how you appear to both yourself and other people. Someone who's highly aware knows how they're coming across to others. I highly recommend, and people hate me when I say this, go and video yourself and record yourself and keep watching and listening till you can become objective. The number of people I hear, I hate the sound of my voice, I hate the way I look. If you hate the sound of your voice, how can you expect other people to like the sound of your voice? Your voice is an incredible instrument that you've got. It's a powerful tool. So the more you can become aware of how you come out, you might not always like how you come across. Sometimes I can come across as quite bossy, as quite a few people know, but it's always a good intention behind the bossiness. But know how you're coming across, and being self-aware is also being able to recognize how other people are reacting to you. The number of business leaders I see, and they think they've got this incredible relationship with their teams, and people cowering when they go near them. Because they're ruling with fear, and these people are frightened. That is not being very self-aware. Self-management. You cannot manage yourself unless you're aware of yourself. This really builds up. This is the way emotional intelligence is built. Is the ability to appropriately control the emotions and drive your behavior in different situations, and the ability to think before you act. As I like to keep things really simple. Motivation, the ability to direct your internal resources, your knowledge, skills, and attitudes toward a predetermined outcome or goal. Motivation is not when things are going well. Motivation is when you're struggling, when you're building your business, when your team's in crisis, when your company's collapsing. How do I keep going? How do I keep things? That's when you're really going into your internal motivators. One of the ways we do that in NLP is help people to be able to elicit their motivation strategies, to be able to actually find out how they get motivated. But that's something we can't teach that in a short period like this. Then we've got empathy, the ability to understand the strengths and weaknesses of other people, their internal drivers, motivations and preferences, and consider their needs and viewpoints. I also like to say it's valuing people. Now, what I didn't mention, sorry, at the beginning is there's no handout with this. If you feel that you want to take photographs of the slides, feel free to do so, but you'll all get a copy of the recording. You'll all get a link to the recording. But it's understanding that when we're working with empathy, in fact, let me just describe something. If you imagine I'm standing here and a coaching client of mine has fallen into a hole. They've fallen into a deep hole. And I jump in beside them. What good is that going to do? It means we're both stuck in a hole. So it's being empathetic is being able to see something from someone else's point of view, but not necessarily go into the same state, the physiological or mental state that person's in, because you want to stay resourceful while being empathetic. You don't want to collapse. And we see this a lot where people will collapse into someone's state. A leader has someone who's upset and then the leader's crying. That's not resourceful. It's to be a good leader, to be a good business professional, to be a good coach, you've got to be able to hold state. And that's one of the things that with NLP we teach about holding state. Social skills, the ability to establish, maintain and develop relationships and communicate effectively to get what you want whilst respecting the rights of other people. So these last two are all about valuing other people. Think about it. Think about when someone values you, when someone appreciates you, when someone understands you, when someone listens to you, when someone encourages you. How does that make you feel? It makes you feel good about yourself because you feel listened to, you feel heard, you feel supported. So that is some of the things that happen that's how you make people feel when you develop your emotional intelligence. And we've all got emotional intelligence. This is a skill that can be developed more of. So let's have a little look at self-awareness. How can you develop your self-awareness? Be honest with yourself. Be honest. Identify what you're good at and what you're not good at. Now, there's a theory that I quite like, that it's much more productive to develop the skills you're already good at rather than trying to develop the skills you're not good at. The skills you're not good at, you will only manage to develop a little bit. I'll give you an example. I'm rubbish with numbers. Those of you who work with me, you know I'm rubbish with numbers. I get numbers mixed up. They all just jumble about, okay? I can do my accounts. My goodness, it takes me a long time. I can do them, but it's a lot of hard work to do that. It takes me hours, it takes me days, sometimes weeks of total confusion. But I can get there. I pay an accountant now. I don't do it myself, but I know what I'm looking for. I can always know roughly what I'm looking for. However, if I was to spend time developing these skills, I wouldn't ever get very far. I would get slightly better. But if I'm developing my linguistic skills, my interpersonal skills, my NLP skills, I'm flying with this. Been doing this for over 35 years, and I'm still developing. So sometimes you have to be really honest with yourself and say, what am I really restricted at? And it's better to let people know about it. For years, I used to do associate. I was an associate trainer for quite a number of companies, especially out in the Middle East. And I had an agreement with every single one of them. If there was a figure, if there was a counting or numeric part of a training, they had to provide another trainer to do that. I didn't do it because it put me under so much stress that it wasn't worth it to say yes to that. So being honest with yourself, ask yourself, what is it I'm really good at? And what am I not good at? What do I feel I'll never really be able to develop? Accept who you are. You are a wonderful, perfect, unique human being. You might not like how you look. You might not like how you sound. You can change these things. But you've got to accept yourself. Acceptance is one of the first things of emotional intelligence. I used to work, who knows Paul McKenna? Who's heard of Paul McKenna? Paul McKenna, yeah, there's quite a few who've heard of it. Those of you who don't know, Paul McKenna has he's sold millions of books, very, very big now in the professional and personal development area. And Paul brought Dr. Richard Bandler, who was the co-founder of NLP, over to the UK in the 90s. And I did my very first training there. And then I went on to be an assistant with Richard Bandler and Paul McKenna. And Paul used to run, he had a book called I Can Make You Thin, and he used to run the I Can Make You Thin seminars. And we used to have about 500 people in these seminars, all shapes and sizes. And we had full-length mirrors. 90% of the people there couldn't look at themselves in a mirror. And that was what we were teaching them. We were teaching them to be able to accept who they were, because the minute you accept yourself, you can develop yourself, or you can go, I'm absolutely fine, there's nothing wrong with me. But self-acceptance is, and never just assume, maybe because you accept yourself, that other people accept themselves. Lots of people don't. Awareness, as said before, how you come across to others. That's being aware of your body language, being aware of barging in. I went through a stage when I first trained in my NLP way back in the 90s, I became very aware. I was leading at that point, I. Every sentence was all about me. I wasn't aware of that. I didn't even know I did that. But I had to change it. And as soon as I changed that, I realized people accepted me a lot more. I came across as quite arrogant and quite brash, and that's not who I am deep down inside. Know what you do well. That's what I mentioned earlier. And know what you need to change. All behavior can be changed. All behavior has a pattern. And that pattern can be changed. And sometimes, if we go right back to being honest with yourself, if you want to have the success you want to get, what do you need to change? What do you need to put in? What effort do you need to put in to do things? Because nobody gets, there's occasionally people will get overnight success, but even people who get the overnight success, you'll find they've been dedicated at something since they were probably a young child. So it's understanding, what do you need to change to be who you want to be, or to get where you want to be. Then we have self-management. Know what you want to achieve. You've got to know where you're going. Our brain is compelled to respond to everything we ask it. Do you know that? Write that down if you haven't heard that before. Our brain is compelled to respond to anything we ask ourselves. So if you don't know where you're going, you'll go round in circles, or it will take years. Other people who know exactly where they're going. Now, one of the bits of feedback we got today from someone who's come on to the self-mastery course, someone highly experienced, been working with NLP up at master level for years. And what they took from that course was just the way I'm doing goal setting in that course, helping people get really clear about what it is they want to achieve. Once you've got that, you can manage that. Control your emotions and be adaptable. Learn to control your emotions. Learn to step away. Nobody can press buttons now. Sorry. People can trigger anger in you, but nobody can keep you there. Nobody is capable of getting into your brain and releasing all the chemicals that keep you really angry and annoyed. Who knows people that are still furious about something that happened 20 years ago? Put your hand up. Yeah, they spend all their life still talking about something then. They're doing this to themselves. So it's understanding that you have got control of your emotions. You can control your emotions. Yes, we get angry. We're not talking about, so this is not, as I said earlier, this isn't, yes, I'm fine. You can get angry, but you've got to know when to stop and when to say, that's enough. I take medication for blood pressure. Anger is dangerous for me. I know that. So if I get angry, I've got to do something to get out of that anger really quickly because it causes all sorts of health problems for people. Set and achieve goals and objectives. Write them down. Get clear about them. Write them down. Write down milestones. Write down goals and objectives. And the brain, because the brain doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination, make your goal really rich. And what I mean by rich, make it sensory rich. See it, feel it, smell it, taste it, touch it, imagine it happening. Jackie, don't mind me sharing this, do you? We did a goal setting session that's on the NLP Mastery course, where you actually see Jackie going through a goal setting session and getting absolutely clear. And her whole physiology changed and her internal motivation absolutely changed when that happened because she got really clear on that. So it's important that you set and achieve goals. Learn from your mistakes. Every successful person has much more mistakes than they have successes. You know that? Some people make mistakes, so what? That's okay. Every single mistake can be rectified. Every single one. What can I learn? How can I make sure that doesn't happen again? We call it feedback versus failure in NLP. Look after yourself. Who goes to the gym? Who has saunas? Who has massages? Who swims? I'm putting my hand up for all of these. I do all of these. Who looks after themselves for the food they eat? Who's careful about overdoing things? Yes, you have to look after yourself. Some of the most successful people in the world, you wonder how have they got the time to be successful? They're out in the gym and they're doing all sorts of things. That's why they're successful. They're looking after themselves first. They're keeping themselves in optimum condition. Now, I'm not an athlete by any means. I'm not a slim thing, but I'm fit. I go to the gym 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a week. I can stand and do training for hours. But that has to come from, you've got to build up stamina. You've got to look after yourself, plenty of sleep and drink plenty of water. And then motivation. Who knows here how they get motivated? Put your hand up if you know how you get motivated. Okay. If you don't know how you get motivated, start asking yourself, how do I get motivated? And remember, it's getting motivated when times are tough. It's not getting motivated. So what drives me when things are tough? What gets me out and doing things when I'm struggling? Understand how you get things done. Break it down. Do you need music? Do you wait to the last minute? Who knows about meta programs? Does anyone know about meta programs here? NLP meta programs. Meta programs, you'll be learning about that. It's how we sort and filter information. And some people are highly motivated towards a goal. People like me are highly motivated away from what will happen if I don't do this goal. So they get motivated away from the pain. So are you motivated towards something, or are you motivated away from something? You could hear it in your language. Oh, I don't want that to happen. If I don't do this, if I don't do this, finish, that will happen. You talk about everything you don't want to happen. There's a good chance you're highly motivated away from. People that are motivated towards, they need to see, they'll actually move. Their body will move forward. They will point to goals. They need to see visual. They need to see tangible results of how they're going, but they're physically and mentally moving towards something. Someone who's an away from motivator, they're not physically doing anything. They're looking over their shoulder, getting pushed. They're getting motivated by this big push that comes. And then recognize the resources you draw on when you keep going, when things get tough. Not enough people do this. This is something I would like you to recognize in yourself. What keeps me going when everyone else is falling apart or everyone else is giving up? Because that's the secret of resilience. That's the secret of tenacity. What is it I'm doing when other people are giving up that keeps me moving, keeps me going? And some of these tips I'm sharing tonight, these are not tips that you can just give the answer to straight away. You might have to start noticing what you're doing. You might have to start observing. So I highly recommend you look at the recording of this and maybe take some screenshots when you look at the recording. Empathy. Consider things from the perspective of others. It's actually putting yourself in someone else's shoes. And this is so important if you're coaching leaders or if you're a leader yourself, know what's possible for others to do or not. I've got this lovely business partner out in Qatar, and he knows that I cannot do the financials. And he also knows I cannot take, I'm again another meta program. I'm very same. If I get too much new information, I panic, even at this stage in my life and stage in my career, because meta programs are hardwired. Not all of them, but some of them are absolutely hardwired. And if I get too much information, I go, and I start to shake and I want to run out the door. And if we're in a meeting, he'll say, just you tell me the details. Fiona doesn't do details like that. She does. We give Fiona time to, and he does it in a beautiful way that doesn't diminish me at all. But I actually want to cry and run, and I go into total panic, and I cannot think because my prefrontal cortex has closed right down. But I know that happens. That's okay. So he's very empathetic towards me. And sorry, just again, know what's possible for others to do or not. Just because someone's gone through a training course in your company doesn't necessarily mean they know how to do something. They might have been confused about it. They might have not had a chance to practice it. It might have been ages ago and they've forgotten about it. So you can never just assume. And who's ever been given something to do in a work scenario and you haven't got a clue where to start, where to go, but someone has assumed you can do it, and it makes you feel really stupid. And a lot of people don't have the courage to put their hand up and say, I don't know how to do this. Recognize and develop the potential in others that they may not see in themselves. Who here is doing what they're doing because someone saw something in you that you didn't see in yourself? Put your hand up. It'll be most of you. Most of you at some point, someone will have noticed something in you and maybe mentioned to you, you're good at that. No, everybody knows how to do it. No, not everybody knows how to do it. So very often you've got qualities that you just take for granted, but someone goes, this is phenomenal. This is great. This can be used in whatever it is. So it's part of empathy is really developing and growing other people. Help others develop and grow. Someone who's not empathetic, the old style leadership, I'm not sharing anything with you. I worked hard to get here. Why should I share it with you? We've got the internet now, for goodness sake, anyone can learn anything. Anyone that's hanging on to knowledge is completely delusional. I'm sorry. You can get the knowledge from everywhere. So share it, help others develop. And then social skills. Listen purposefully to others. Give people the courtesy of listening to them. The number of times I'm in corporate situations in a training course and I'm watching people not listening. Just completely, they're not listening, and it's rude, but also it disconnects people on a business scenario. Find similarities with others and notice how people are responding to you. So there's a little bit of self-awareness in there as well for that one. So it's just find things that are similar. For example, if I'm training in India, I will start talking about when I was at Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai, and Tendulkar was going for his, and he was bowled out for 94. And I can see some heads nodding because they know I'm talking about cricket. They know I'm talking about stuff. And this was a big cricket god. And all of a sudden, I've got a whole room in my side because she was there at this fabulous day for cricket. When I'm training in the Emirates or any place in the Middle East, I'll start talking about I went out to work in Abu Dhabi in 1982. And normally I'm training people in their 30s. So I was there long before they were born, which immediately creates empathy and creates this, it's a connection, it's a similarity rapport. Be aware of your and others' body language, non-verbal communication. 70 to 80% of how we communicate is non-verbal. It's through our body posture and voice tone. So someone could be saying all the right things and their body's giving off a completely different message. So be aware of that, or be aware of how you're coming across, the non-verbal signals that you're giving to someone. And then share your experience or knowledge. Especially be vulnerable enough to share when you struggled. There's something incredibly powerful about a leader sharing something that they've struggled with and then being able to tell people how they overcame that. All of a sudden, that leader becomes human. So before that, very often, there can be people look up to their boss. When their boss starts sharing things about how they're connecting with others, then that is absolutely huge. Okay, I'm going to put you, any questions? I'm going to put you into, let me see, put you into breakout rooms. Go in for 7 minutes. Just share a little bit about who you are, what you've got from this, maybe how you're using whatever you're using, and we'll see you back at 22. I did my calculation, I think, properly there. Okay, see you in a minute, or 7. Okay, oh, did everyone get something from that? Just put your hand up. Yeah, you've all got something from that. Fantastic. Okay, so let me just show you what we've got here. Let me close the rooms completely. That's it. Okay, here's the link for the certification program. And if you want, even if you don't want to come onto the certification program, it's worthwhile having a look and seeing what it covers. It's 32 modules, as I mentioned before, over 12 weeks. And we start again in September. I run two of these a year in March and in September. And here's the link for, this is my calendar link. If you would like a complimentary session with me, it's 30 minutes, you book for 30 minutes. There's the link there, and happy to have a chat. If you've had a chat with me before, feel free to contact me again. It's okay. And we can talk about some of there you go, Saraya, thank you very much. Breakout rooms are always amazing. Thank you to Roger and team. That's lovely to hear that. In the strategy sessions, obviously, I'll be talking about my coaching and some of the trainings that we've got, but most of the time spent with you. People who come onto this, we use this time to help you work on something that I can help you get some clarity with. So I want you to go away with something. Okay, so let's just we've got 2 minutes. Let's get a couple of people to feedback. So what did you get from that? Who wants to go first? what you got from that quick session there. Okay, Amir, what did you get?
When I asked her about the application of meta model, which is unrelated to tonight's session, but since Tina she's a practitioner, I asked her about it, and she gave me a very good answer. Because I asked her, sometimes I hit a brick wall when I ask somebody, how do you know? And they're like, I just know.
Yeah,
And I'm
so
like, okay.
okay.
Like,
so sometimes I will say with that as well, if you did know, how do you know? If someone goes, I just know. If you didn't know, how would you know?
If you did know, how you know? That's great.
But sometimes the word just is really powerful. I just know, okay, but have you ever, how do you know that? Going into a state of curiosity is very powerful. And meta model is really important. The meta model, for those of you who don't know, is the information gathering tool of NLP. And there's a whole training of that on the Mastery, the NLP Mastery. We cover meta model. So the key to meta model is a state of real curiosity. And because when you're curious, it doesn't seem threatening, because sometimes meta model questions can seem a bit threatening. Yeah, there goes, I'm seeing some heads nodding, because you're actually going into someone else's inside world. Okay, thank you for that. And I know you've got the How to Use the NLP Meta Model for Business training. You all got the How to Use the NLP Meta Model training? Who's working through it? Or is it just sitting in your inbox? It's good to have all. I was having a look today at some of the courses that are out there, and I'm going, there's so much material that people have got sitting there that they don't even know is there. Who else? William, what did you new here? What did you get from this evening?
I was saying to the ladies in the breakout room there, in my police career, I didn't realise I was developing emotional intelligence because it wasn't a thing then. But when I look back in my career, dealing with all the people I had to deal with, including fellow police officers and latterly staff, I realised, yeah, you were doing that without being aware of it.
Yes.
And it's a wonderful thing to realise.
Yes, you see that emotional intelligence was written about for thousands of years. You becoming conscious of things that you're doing unconsciously, and that's what we do with NLP, start to become a lot more conscious. Okie dokie, so anything else before we stop? No, give yourself a big round of applause. Next week, we are looking at asking purposeful questions. I'll be introducing my splatter model. My splatter model was the model that I've developed for business managers to gather information without having to go through the full learning of the meta model. So this is quite a shortened way of asking very purposeful questions. So same place, same time next week. Nice big round of applause. Thank you very much. And lovely to see you, and see you all again soon. Okay, thank you very much.